We come to the end. Part 4, Angela's Ashes. I am blessed among men, Frank wrote at the beginning of Angela's Ashes. And he listed the women who blessed him by making his journey to publication possible, as well as his wife Ellen and Mary Breasted Smith. These included his agent, Molly Friedrich, his editor, Nan Graham, and his beloved daughter, Maggie. We'll hear from those last three in just a minute. The one person we won't hear from is the one who made Frank, as well as this evening, both possible and necessary. That eponymous mother of blessed memory and most famous ashes, Angela McCourt. Like Malachi, Frank was always upfront about Angela's objections to his version of their life in Limerick. And while I'm certain that Angela is glad to be with her famous son once again, I'm sure that she too welcomes the chance to continue the argument. Arguments aside, what Angela did is truly remarkable. It's even historic. There have been Irish brothers before who shared literary fame. The James brothers, for instance, Henry and William, and not Jesse and Frank James, who shared fame of a different sort. But I can think of no other mother in Irish history or in any other history who suckled the authors of 3 memoirs about the same family. Forget the ashes then, and think of the wonders wrought by Angela's milk. To quote the book of Proverbs, "Blessed be the breasts that suckle such offspring. Blessed be the milk that flows through such veins." And if Frank was smart, he would have bottled some of it and sold it to would-be writers. And blessed are we that along with Molly Friedrich, Nan Graham, and Maggie McCourt, we have an all-star lineup for this grand finale. This includes Frank's granddaughter and Angela's great-granddaughter, Kiara McCourt, and a trio of literary heavyweights. Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist William Kennedy, who will be honored on October 16th at Rosie O'Grady's with the first Eugene O'Neill Lifetime Achievement Award. And for my money, 2 future Pulitzer Prize winners, Colin McCann and Ann Teller Fleming. Thank you.
I love Frank. Literary agents don't always love their clients. There's just too much intimate financial behavior involved. And it would seem that the process of actually writing a book, good or bad, often calls up unbecoming behavior. But Frank was an absolute joy to have in my life and to represent, and I loved him. I'm feeling the tincture of time here, so I'm actually not going to belabor the point, the story of how Frank McCourt came into my life. But it is true that when my friend Mary Breasted Smith implored me to please read 125 pages of her good friend Frank McCourt's memoir, it was single-spaced on onion skin paper with most of the typed O's punched out. And it is also true that because my father had just died a week earlier, I was really in no mood whatsoever to read such a cosmetically forlorn memoir about starving to death in Ireland. I do remember resenting both Frank and Mary. I mean, don't these writers ever read any guidebooks about proper methods of submission? And so that manuscript did sit on my kitchen table for 2 whole days until a large can of Barrio olive oil imperiled that luminous first page. You now all have some of that first page printed in your programs. Well, when I read that first page, I do vividly remember consciously putting it down onto my lap and pausing. Finally, it's finally here. The reason for getting into this business in the first place has finally revealed itself. And so I kept on reading, and I called Mary, and then I called Frank, and I met him soon after that, and I adored him on sight. Back in the early days, before we even had a publisher, I remember once calling Frank and instead getting Ellen on the phone. I remember just going on and on and on with a nearly willful passion about these pages, just blubbering, no, rhapsodizing. And Ellen said, "Well, I'm glad to hear that, Molly. We like it too." Such unfailing modesty. How to be an unfailingly modest couple without also being a pushover strikes me as possibly a minor art form. When Frank died, I received scores of emails from people all over the world. Of course, But several well-intentioned people quite mistakenly credited me with discovering Frank McCourt. I didn't discover Frank, he discovered himself. And at the risk of sounding like a yoga instructor, part of Frank's legacy, aside from the obvious literary one, is so breathtakingly simple. Be present in your own life and pay attention. That little boy in Limerick, the young man at the Biltmore, that teacher man was paying good attention all along, and I'm so glad he shared his head and his heart with us all. Thank you.